Hello, everyone. This is Kevin with the Worthy Law Podcast for March 2019. This time, I want to talk just a little bit in general about how the legal system works, here in Utah especially. I think this is maybe a good idea for a lot of you because I think a lot of people don't really know how the system works at all. They don't know what to expect when they come to talk to a lawyer. They don't know how long things will take. They don't know what's reasonable to expect in terms of outcomes for their case. So I think the first thing I want to say is just that civil cases are governed by court rules, and the rules make it so that, except in the smallest of cases, it's going to take probably 18 to 24 months at least to get to trial. A lot of times it takes longer because of delays, because of agreements between the parties or things like that. So just know if you want to get into a courtroom and try your case and have your day in court that way, it's going to be a little while. So that's a good thing, I think, to keep in mind. In terms of how cases start, usually what happens is you'll come in, you'll realize that you have an issue that you want to talk with a lawyer about, and so you'll come into the office and you will hopefully have a pretty good explanation of what's happened. As a lawyer, I'm going to look for the facts of the case. I'm going to want to know what the facts of the case are. And I'll talk with you about that, and I will listen carefully to what you're saying, ask you questions if I feel like there are particular areas where I need to know more and you're not telling me exactly what I know without those questions. And then I'll get a sense of maybe what legal theories will apply. A lot of times, no matter what kind of case it is, a lot of times we're going to start with a letter of some sort to a defendant if you're the plaintiff. If you're the defendant, then you've either gotten a letter and you need to respond to that, or worse yet, you have received a copy of a complaint. You've been served process by a process server. The complaint has been formally filed in the courts. And that's really where the formal process in the courts really begins. It's with the filing of a complaint. I don't want to take a lot of time to go through all of the different things that happen. But basically, the case will proceed after you file a complaint. Let's say you're the plaintiff and you've done a letter to the defendant and the defendant has not responded in a way that's acceptable to you. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to file a complaint with the court. And there's a filing fee that's associated with that. You'll get that there. You'll have an option to demand a jury if you want a jury trial. I think that's a good idea in a lot of cases, probably most cases. For smaller cases, it's maybe not worth it. But most of the time in bigger cases, I would definitely recommend a jury. That's my personal preference. And I have reasons for that. I don't think I want to go into all of those right now, but I think that's a good idea. So when you file the complaint, you can ask for a jury, and then the other side's going to have 3 weeks to answer that. A lot of times they'll get extensions if they ask for those. Then you'll begin the process called discovery, and that's basically where you disclose information about your case and you ask questions and get information about the other party's case. And you'll do that discovery for quite a while, even in very small cases. In Utah, that's going to go for 180 days in the state courts. The federal system is a little bit different, but it's very similar. In the state system, there are specific timelines that are set by the rules. The federal system's a little bit different, but the judges typically in the federal system will set deadlines and tell you when exactly they want you to be done with discovery. They're usually fairly tight timelines. So that being said, you'll do this discovery, this information exchange and information gathering period. That goes on for at least 180 days typically. A lot of times that'll go on for more than a year. Just depends on a lot of different factors. Then you'll do motions, and after you do motions for summary judgment, there's a phase where you can do motions for summary judgment, which are very common in cases. And if you're curious, we can talk about that. Maybe give me a call. We'll find a time to talk about that. And I might do a podcast on it next month or another time. But anyway, you'll do these motions, and then you do all your pretrial stuff. You do pretrial disclosures and pretrial orders and trial briefs and motions in limine and all that kind of stuff. And then you go to trial, and you do the trial, and you get a verdict if you go all the way through trial. If the losing party wants to appeal, you can file a notice of appeal. Then you get up into the appellate courts, and that's going to take another year, maybe 2 years to get resolved. And then you're done with the case at that point. Typically, sometimes the appellate courts will send it back to the trial court, and then you have to do more things in the trial court. But typically after the appeal, if the winning party in the trial court wins in the appellate court, which is what happens in over 90% of the cases, then the case is over and you move on with your lives based on the decision that's been made. So that's how it's going to go in court. Another thing to think about, though, is typically in cases, not only are you pushing that litigation track, but there's also a negotiation track where you're trying to come to a settlement agreement. And in a lot of cases, these days in the majority of cases that are filed, the case never goes to trial. I personally see a lot of cases either settle or there'll be a motion of some sort, either a motion for summary judgment or a motion to dismiss or something like that. And that will basically decide the case. So that's how a lot of cases operate. You're either doing the litigation, going through all those steps, and there's those court mandated timelines and waiting periods and things like that, or you're doing the negotiation, and that just depends a lot on you and on the other side and how you see the issues and what the issues are and how big the issues are, who's willing to make concessions, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the process that you're looking at. So hopefully that's helpful to you if you have questions about that process at all. Of course, if you have a legal case that you want to talk with us about, feel free to give us a call. If you know friends or family that have legal cases, we're always looking for good referrals. So if you made it this far, thanks for listening, and God bless.